2 Scudettos in 3 years, after waiting 33 to be champions of Italy once again. Antonio Conte said when he arrived in Naples in 2024 that, quote, a total rebuild is needed from the foundations. Fair enough. I mean, this is a club that went from being champions to finishing in 10th place, one of the worst title defenses in Serie A history, right? And losing their star striker due to... I mean, I won't get into that. Way too long, and I've spoken about the Osimhen situation enough. In August of 2024, Conte's side lost 3-0 away to Hellas Verona, in which Conte said that his players melted like snow in the sunshine. Victor Osimhen, one of the big reasons for Napoli's success in 2023, left the club with a bridge burned between the two. Kavica Kvaratskhelia left Napoli mid-season, never an easy time to deal with losing a key player, meaning the dynamic duo that thrived under Spalletti were both gone already. And so with that in mind, winning a Scudetto during a rebuild isn't too bad. Okay, now take a look at the league at large and how things have transpired in the last few months. Serie A is one of my favorite leagues to watch because you get it all: drama, controversy, fantastic football, and a relatively open title race season upon season. Since the fall of the Juve empire, there have been 3 different champions, with Inter and Napoli the only ones to repeat. But so far, none have been able to defend their title in the next season. And with the chaos that has taken over in Serie A, there may be room for Napoli to stake their claim as a constant favorite, or at the very least, a top contender for Serie A season upon season. There are a few things that are non-negotiable for this to become or stay as a potential reality, which we'll go over in a second, but first, let's get the lay of the land. As the manager positions amongst teams in the top 10 have been nuked, moved, and shaken about, and suddenly, a club that contains both Antonio Conte and the madman that is Aurelio de Laurentiis resembles one of the most stable clubs in the league. I mean, who thought they would ever be able to say that? Okay, so take a look at the Serie A table. 7 of the top 10 clubs have changed coaches. Could have been 8 if Como lost Fabregas, but that's not looking likely now that Mirwan Surasso told Inter to jog on in refusing any kind of contact between Inter, Fabregas, and Como. But from Napoli downward, there will be new coaches at Inter, Atalanta, Juve, Roma, Fiorentina, Lazio, and AC Milan. Just unbelievable stuff. One caveat, there are rumblings that Igor Tudor could stay with Juve, so an asterisk next to him, but the point still remains, this is madness. Atalanta, after 9 years with Gianpiero Gasperini, have now appointed Ivan Juric as his successor. I am not a fan of Juric. He hasn't covered himself in a ton of glory lately in Serie A and was unable to help the already sinking Southampton in the Premier League. Maybe we can't hold that against him. Historically horrible team, but this seems like a massive departure from Gasperini. Roma, they went through De Rossi and Juric last season before Nonno Claudio returned and sent them shooting back up the Serie A standings. They went on an unbelievable run, rising from 15th all the way to 5th, even with their star man Paulo Dybala picking up another lengthy injury. Now it looks as though Gasperini will take over at Roma at the time of recording this. Fiorentina, after just 1 season under Raffaele Palladino, not a bad one in the slightest, but there are talks of how Palladino didn't get along with sporting director Daniele Prade and disagreements over multiple decisions, so Palladino left. Now they are in talks with Stefano Pioli. Lazio had a chaotic 3-coach 2023-24 season, going from Sarri to Martusciello to Igor Tudor. Maybe counting Martusciello is cheating, but hey, he oversaw a match. So for this past season, Marco Baroni was in charge, and things went okay. Nothing to write home about, but Baroni did fine. Only for Baroni to leave, Maurizio Sarri to return, and Baroni went and joined Torino, who didn't count in my calculations as they finished in 11th, but yes, yet another managerial change in Serie A. AC Milan, Sergio Conceição didn't work out. This coming after Paulo Fonseca didn't work out. And so now they too are going back in time by bringing Maxi Allegri back to Milan. He won Serie A with them back in the 2010-11 season, but with Reinders leaving, they certainly have some holes to fill, not just in the midfield, but across the pitch as well. They need reinforcements. Still, an experienced title-winning coach is taking over. And finally, the big one. Inzaghi leaves Inter and joins Al Hilal. Look at it this way. There are very few coaches that Inter could bring in that would be an upgrade on Simone Inzaghi. There are very few coaches who could deal with the lack of signings, who could juice this squad for all of its worth and make 2 Champions League finals in 3 years, as well as numerous trophies domestically. And when you look at the names being associated with Inter, it looks grim. Christian Kivu, who coached at the youth levels at Inter and recently did well with Parma, but has 13 matches under his belt at the senior level. That's it. At the time of recording, he's the front runner. Patrick Vieira, not the most convincing resume. So considering they need improvements in the squad as well, the biggest threat and previously the most stable of the top clubs in Italy could be in for a tough season. Or a transitional season, to put a positive spin on things. Like I said, there are few coaches that could get so much out of this Inter squad as Inzaghi did, but one of them actually happens to be in charge of Napoli.
The Serie A winning coach, after a few days of reflection and after receiving guarantees from the club, has decided to continue and communicated his decision this evening. This was in a meeting with the president, De Laurentiis, and further staff, in which they also began to talk about their plans for next season as well.
You really cannot overstate just how crucial Conte deciding to stay with Napoli is. This is a guy who was always, more than happy to walk away from a project if he isn't, happy with what the club can assure him as far as recruitment. Still, he's one of the best Serie A managers ever, full stop, and the only one to win a Scudetto with 3 different teams. You could count Fabio Capello in a way, but that Juve Scudetto was taken back. Also impressive, Conte's won the league in his first season at Juve, Chelsea, and Napoli. In the seasons prior to winning with Conte, Juve finished 7th, Chelsea finished 10th, and Napoli again finished 10th. Now, of course, you could discount this all by saying that there was no European football for those teams in those seasons, which is a big boost, being able to focus solely on their domestic competitions. But at least at Napoli, they did it without Kvara and Osimhen. And to be fair, there aren't many managers who have taken over a side that has fallen out of form, fallen out of Europe, and then gone on to win the league in their next season. It takes a lot of picking up of the squad. And yes, of course, you have to factor in that Inter were playing far more matches than Napoli, and Inter found a way to snatch defeat, or a draw, I guess, from the jaws of victory on a few occasions in the league, which is why Pedro has become a saint in Naples. But to be fair, Conte was able to pick up these teams on 3 separate occasions in 2 different leagues. So there's still a ton of merit in this accomplishment, especially when you consider that Inter has a stronger squad that has been playing together for longer, while Napoli, in my opinion, doesn't exactly have the deepest and strongest of squads in Serie A. Now that they are Serie A champions, there will be some recency bias, of course, but at the start of the season, there weren't many that pointed to Napoli as being contenders for the Serie A title because of their squad. Anyone who pointed to success for them typically cited Antonio Conte as a potential reason for their success, or potential success. Because this was, as mentioned by Conte, a time to rebuild, a season where Napoli were in the middle of a long process, not one where they were expected to challenge or win anything, maybe the Coppa Italia. But this season was for foundation building. So while you will hear plenty of people trying to discredit this achievement, and some pointing to how well someone like McTominay played, because he did play incredibly well, a lot of the heavy lifting is still done by Conte tactically and mentally with his players.
Hopefully the people can see that I'm giving my all every time I go on the pitch, and that's really all you can do as a football player is do your best.
And this is the thing, is that Conte gets it done with players that are unfancied and turns them into warriors. Then there are the other players in the squad who are also important under Spalletti, but are not really at the top of the transfer list for clubs. The Lobotkas, Rachmanis, and Alex Moretz of the world, just as examples there. But as an example of the former, look at how he changed the trajectory of Lukaku's career at Inter, a guy who was mostly a meme at that point after looking clumsy and lost at Manchester United. Remember all of the looks like he's playing in jeans and Timberlands memes? Same goes for Scott McTominay, now a Serie A MVP for the season, but previously ridiculed by some Manchester United supporters due to being completely misprofiled as a deep-lying midfielder for most of his time in England. Or an at-the-time 33-year-old Ashley Young from Conte's Inter days. He made that work. When Conte identifies a player that he wants, then the club is at this point pretty much obliged to listen to him because his judgment is fantastic and they always fit into Conte's jigsaw, the sort of jigsaw of success, if you will.
Napoli have made a move to sign Kevin De Bruyne. Napoli's sporting director, Giovanni Manna, has been in Manchester in the last few weeks to meet the player.
Now, let's tie the Napoli side to the rest of Serie A and the chaos amongst other clubs. Napoli's rivals are all in a state where it is hard to say just how well they will do, as we went over. At Inter, they are seemingly going for an inexperienced coach, so who knows how things will look there. They do have an experienced group that's played together for a while, so that's a huge plus, but without the proper direction, I mean, they can't just coach themselves if things go wrong, right? They aren't at that kind of level. Juve, still up in the air as to where they will head with their coach, but Tudor seems promising. However, their sporting director, Cristiano Giuntoli, is on his way out, and there are new heads involved behind the scenes, like Chiellini and Comoli. AC Milan, they will have a new coach in Maxi Allegri, but is their squad good enough to compete with this Napoli side at the moment? Potentially, but they will need to recruit as well. Going down the list of the top 10, and you will find that all of the sort of top sides are in uncharted territory with new coaches, which always makes things really difficult to call, right? Napoli, despite having two explosive characters in Conte and De Laurentiis, could be seen as the most stable, and with the right bit of recruitment, could build upon last season's success to defend their title or make a good run in the Champions League, as is one of their aims. Their squad needs reinforcements, however, which is why names like Kevin De Bruyne are coming up for the midfield, but they also could use some more players in the wide positions. It seems as though they will sign another defender, but the list isn't long per se, but there absolutely needs to be depth added. And given Antonio Conte has decided he is staying, then surely assurances were made for signings. Conte has been quoted as saying, quote, "Managers and owners meet at the end of every season to review the season, to see how it went, and find out whether or not they have the same vision for the future, and the same determination to go after particular objectives. That all seems normal to me. It happens at every club. There is a contract, and seeing as we're aligned on the vision we have for the club, there's nothing else to say on the matter. We carry on. We're serious people, so we're moving forward." So there isn't a guarantee that Napoli can retain their trophy or build a dynasty, and as we know, things are crazy in Serie A and can change quickly, even faster when guys like Conte and De Laurentiis are involved. But all the same, with Conte at the helm and chaos amongst their rivals, Napoli are in a period where their chances at sustaining success have never looked better in the last couple of decades. As always, guys, thank you for watching. A huge shout out to you and to Ayub, who edited this video. Always a treat when he takes the editing reins. But beyond that, I'll see you soon for another video. Take care.